Boy, Max, I can tell you, just growing up, I grew up in a small town in upstate New York. And every Memorial Day weekend, the firemen's field days, we would have the carnival would come into town with, a dozen rides and the games of chance, which of course I loved. And it was the biggest deal of the year. I would save money for months leading up to the carnival because I wanted to go win the biggest stuffed animal, possible out there. And it was literally like the highlight of the year from age, 6 to 16.
Yeah. When my dad was still alive, we used to talk all the time about how the worst thing that ever happened to the carnival business was it becoming more corporate and less seasonal, because just as you said, you go to a town once a year or twice a year and you roll into town and you are the focus of not only that town, but sometimes the entire county. There are places in Tennessee and Kentucky and West Virginia where the week of the festival, a town that normally has 5,000 people will have 20 or 30,000 people. When my family operated our carnival, we stayed in Texas 9 months out of the year. But in July and August, Texas gets to be about 90, 95 degrees a lot of the time. And here in this area, about 70% humidity. So we were always trying to find a part of the country we could go to in July and August, maybe June, maybe the end of June a little, maybe the beginning of September. But we never had a big show. You said y'all's carnival had 12 rides. The most we ever had was like 8. And we were generally the carnival of last resort. So like if it was a choice of not having a carnival and having the Ivies, you were going to have the Ivies. But we still had to work our butts off to find those people that needed the Ivies. And that's where the whole "if you don't ask, they can't say yes" thing comes from, because I was the booking agent. My dad would give me a list of names and numbers, and he would tell me to call these people and try to get them to book our carnival. And after, the first hour or two, I'd look at him and I'd go, "This ain't fun. These people are all mean to me. None of them want our carnival. All of them want to know where our big rides are going to come from. This is not." And he would just sit there and he'd go, "Look, if you don't ask, they can't say yes. Now stop complaining and make the next call." And in the early days, what we would do is when he gave me numbers, I would type them out on an old style manual Perkins Braille writer. And I carried that Braille writer all over the country with me. And, I'd have like 100, 200 pages of Braille of past notes and phone numbers of people like, "Well, something fell through this week. Where were we this week last year or 2 years ago or 5 years ago? Maybe we could talk them into doing something." So it was a continual challenge to find people that would book us, to get a hold of them, and to do it without really much in the way of technology. So we were a very low tech carnival as far as our rides, and we were very low tech as far as our booking efforts. But we always managed to fill out our calendar somehow. And here's the most important thing that I think people can say about my dad. There's 2 things that more often than not festival organizers would say about him. One, they would say, "Max, we know you don't own all these rides," because my dad was gifted at communication and building relationships to the point where we booked a lot of events over the years we had no business signing the contract for, because we didn't own the rides that they would require to be happy with us having that contract. But people would say, "Max, I know you don't have all these rides, but we know that if something happens out here that we don't like, we can come to you and tell you that we don't like it, and you will take care of it. You will fix it for us." So that was one thing. The other thing, because my dad was one of these Southern gentlemen who was raised to believe that if you sign a contract, you deliver on the contract, even if you find out later it wasn't a good contract for you. So if he told a guy he's going to give him 25% of the gross, that's what he would give him. And I can't tell you how many times over the years we followed a carnival with 12 or 15 or 20 rides because that carnival no longer wanted to play this town. And we would settle up at the end of our week and give them more money, if not twice as much money than the bigger show did, because, we said we're going to give them 25%. That's what we gave them. And one of my favorite stories on this area was a guy once asked my dad, because he felt like they had gotten cheated by the previous show owner. He said, Mr. Ivey, if I told you the only way you can sign this contract is you have to let me sell the tickets, how would you feel? My dad said, I feel great. He said, because that means I have to hire 2 less ticket sellers that week.
Yeah, honesty has its privilege, has its benefits, right?
If you see them, a lot of people aren't willing to see the benefits of being honest, but like I say, he was raised country Southern from upstate South Carolina, and he had kind of an unusual take on a lot of things in life because of his upbringing. And thankfully, I've picked up some of them. I like to tell people, if we had been more dishonest, we'd still be in the carnival business. And that's,